Right, that was just had one summery afternoon. It was a fairly sunny day actually, one weekday afternoon back in around, would have been roughly September 1976, after I got home from uni. Actually, it may have been before September. If I wanted to date that contact accurately, it wouldn't be very hard because obviously it coincided fairly closely with receiving the invoice from a certain record mailing firm. Anyway, I severely edited the end. I knocked about 15 minutes out of it and sort of joined the last bit on, more or less, just to get a little bit of Mary, because Mary walked into the shack and told John his tea was ready. So I wasn't going to include the last 15 minutes of the contact, but I just sort of popped that on just for interest's sake. Now the next one is a contact that doesn't include me. It's just a bit of Dave 3ASE, the notorious Dave, who really should have got the nickname of the Knock. I don't know what we could have given the Knock. I suppose we could have called Knock. What did we call Knock before? Before we called him the Knock, we were calling him something else. The Downer, that's right. Anyway, this is a bit of little bit of Dave and Beck, which was recorded off air. That's the main point of interest, the fact that it was recorded off air through a receiver with a low distortion detector, Radiotron Designer's Handbook type low distortion detector, through a fairly broad receiver, namely a little mantle radio sitting right in front of me. So I'll have a little bit of that contact, just more or less for technical interest's sake.
They're about 3 times as big, with these super big push button knobs, and they're really
break off.
That's right, and they can switch them around. You can just swap them around to make them use 1/2 inch tape or 1/4 inch tape, and they really work. They work exceptionally good because they're getting rid of the O quarters.
What?
The O quarters.
Hang on.
Well, there's a certain person we know who is like a river, who used to work for them, or maybe he still does.
Yes, right.
And they've come to the conclusion that they're absolutely hopeless. Absolute.
What's wrong with them?
That is completely bad. That have been designed by an engineer. That's what it amounts to, with no liaison with anybody, with anything else but an academic. The electronics is so complex that when one goes for a wreck, instead of having, the 240 volts going through a switch then onto a motor, say for the capstan, it goes into about 1,050,000 ICs, and when it breaks down, they wheel it into the maintenance room, and G's in there, they open it up and they go, woo, and they pass out, and they've got to wheel it back down and put it into storage because it's of no further use and no one knows how to fix
stupid.
What, and then they have to ring up the O people.
Well, the O people, they don't like them either because they can't fix them. And there's all these ICs in there, there's ICs, instead of, how you just have a spooling pot, you turn it one way and it goes forward and the other way reverse.
Yeah.
Well, they just have a spooling pot, but it goes through all ICs to run the motors. And of course they go berserk.
Actually, I'll bet you that the degree of unreliability is not the fault of the ICs either. It'd be the fault of the engineer who designed the circuit using them.
They've been playing to air, then all of a sudden you hear this actually.
Because the ICs should last forever if they're used properly.
So that's what you hear, you see. And they're really quite bad. So they've got the Studers, which they are an exceptionally nice
I
quarter.
imagine they'll be wrecked in a couple of years.
I don't think so. The whole thing is that the O quarters are wrecked now after 2 years. But the old roller quarters aren't, some of them pretty wrecked, but they're 15 years old.
Yeah.
And those Plessies are about 5 years old and they're still okay. I mean, if things are designed properly, they don't wreck. It's a wonder for the economies you see them, they buy 1722Ws or something and put them in the booths. Actually, they'd probably be just as good.
Oh, well.
And if they use
Yeah, the stupid operator wouldn't be able to find the right track though.
They'd probably have to use 4,000.
They'd probably be playing the wrong tracks accidentally.
Yes.
And then they'd have used T-tape.
Just think of all the money they could save.
That's right.
And it wouldn't make any difference because the quality's so bad at the moment.
That's right, yes.
Actually, they could probably just put in cassette recorders.
Well,
Buy a whole pile of Panamexes from Myers.
the other day, they did use a set directly into the missions. It was rather hard to queue up. You push a button, it goes meow. It was such a distorted set. I mean, even for a set, it was atrocious.
That's rather disconcerting.
Who corded it? It was obviously corded on a cheap H corders, like you said, where somebody had left the AGC off and was yelling into the Bill Ikes. And it was hopeless. It really was. It had to be put through a filter to make it intelligible.
What kind of set corders did you play it back on?
One of the cheapest brands.
An H corders?
No, I forget what brand it is, but it's an exceptionally cheap one. You can't switch the AGC out of it or anything like that.
How incredible.
You see, what was wrong with it? The AGC's hooked in on playback, and it was distorted chordings. And of course, the guys yelling into the Bill Ikes was actually corded at a race course. And then when the guy stops talking, the AGC and the chorders tuck up, and you hear the brown on the PA system carrying on, all distorted. And to think that they have the cheapest set chorders available at that place. I mean, if they consider that sets are obviously going to be used from time to time, you think they'd buy some useful sort of chorders to dub things off.
We'll just try the effect of winding a little bit of bass, I think. We'll wind in about 10 or 12 dB of bass and just see what it does.
What else is on your bill list there?
Sorry, what was that?
Enough advertisements for that place for the time being, I guess. 1,
What
2, 3,
kind
4,
of
5.
tables are they going to use? Sparta?
You mean the new booth?
Yes.
Oh, no, they're just the ordinary CE ones.
Uh-huh.
With
I thought that company was out of business now.
Commonwealth Tronics. No, they're still... They make Q-Masters.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
They do.
Because there was advertisement in the paper, the Green Guide, when the MP missions came on, and said who made Q-Masters.
Who makes them?
I can't remember.
Well, it must have just recently changed because they've got written on them, it says, made by, CE.
Probably Philips, actually, seeing as Philips have taken over CE.
Actually, rather unfortunately, that supplement thing that was in the Green Guide...
It's been lost.
That's just a guess.
Before I had a chance to grab it.
Pure guess.
And that's quite, that could be very interesting to have in 20 years' time.
Well, I've got the opening tape.
Oh, I've got the tape. I've got some clippings.
Did you...
Not grass clippings, but...
Did you record the opening?
Yes.
With that super compression and the...
Oh, you recorded the opening?
Yeah, in super quality.
Yours is probably a much better quality one, because mine just came out of the GX receivers.
Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with mine. They were really a powerful signal. Then about half an hour before they opened, they went down in strength. I don't know why, and as a result, all of a sudden the 10kc whistle, instead of being just barely audible, came up to being as strong as a signal because the wideband receivers, you see. And I don't know why they dropped their power in the opening, and you hear the Joff face, he came on and gave a spew, and who else? Oh, the Walsh features came on and said how good it was. There's going to be something different. And that was about the last we heard of the cheese too on that test mission. He hasn't been around much.
Who is the cheese?
You do the test missions, and you thought, oh, this is good. I'll get him in first, and he hasn't been heard of since.
It's interesting that they had that thing. There was so many high frequencies. I could hear them bashing away.
That's right.
They didn't come out the GX receivers too well, but if you tune off to the side, it just bashed.
It was incredible.
And the compression was unbelievable.
It was, wasn't it?
It was far more than
they have now.
Yeah, and more treble. You can tell. Overall, I don't think their level of treble has dropped that much. I think it's gone down a bit. Or maybe I'm just getting used to it.
Yeah.
Off record it's okay, but you can tell their spots is wearing, because their little ID jingles
Spots is wearing.
used to have a ton of treble in them.
Poor.
Now they just sort of sound quite, not muffled, but they just sound
You're being
dead.
badly influenced.
So it would appear that their
Although, from what I've gathered, my knowledge of spots and other machines, professional type things, 7.5, the heads can be quite worn and you can still get a decent response out of them. The thing is, what tends to happen when the heads go for a wear, they wear
unevenly.
If you have to sort of realign them and you can get them back into good shape. Apparently when they wear, the gap must get all wrecked. And if you realign it,
I find that
you can
difficult
get
to
back
believe.
almost to the original response. And there's some silver quarters that are so worn, about half an inch worn in, the tape disappears into the head, so worn, and they sound perfectly okay. Then there's some others with new heads that sound like muffle missions, so I just can't make of it.
Probably got different shaped pole pieces.
You see, the people who align those things only hear up to 1 kc, so they...
You're supposed to align them on a meter.
Now, what else is on the list?
The list.
Hang on.
About rigged.
And we've got rid of the hum out of the mission.
Talk about rigged.
And we've got rid of the hum out of the missions. You'll be pleased to know, Branch.
Oh.
We put passages across the formers.
Oh, that's good. That sounds all right.
Because we'll be doing a bit of filming off the Seavers tomorrow night.
Says
Yes, that's right.
reading off his
I hope
script.
it works out quite okay.
Now,
Says he reading off
how
his
will we be
script.
doing it?
Well, I guess I'll put the camera on a pod,
To the page.
put it in front of the TV receivers,
Thunderbird.
and turn your receiver up to full brilliance,
Yes.
because it'll have more persistence at full brilliance, won't it? I guess.
I suppose so.
And we'll film it off the receivers.
And it will work.
And it did work. I wonder if people have more persistence at full brilliance. Anyway, that was just a bit of, just for technical interest more than anything else. That was recorded off air, off a live contact with Dave and the Beck.